For their part, the Baader-Meinhof was bound to lose on two fronts. Once they initiated a battle of ever-escalating military force, the state was the inevitable victor. Nor could they hope to inspire the proletariat, because they were attempting to combat alienation with alienated means. No matter who undertakes it, always counter-revolutionary. It depends upon a secret hierarchy which reproduces classic military organization with its strict division of labor, bizarre code of behavior, and the use of intimidation. There is nothing secret about revolution. One of the main strengths of an authentic radical movement is that everything it does and says can be done and said by everyone because its goals and its methods are truly democratic.
The possibility of a new trial for two of Malcolm X's convicted killers when Tony Brown's journal returns.
As traditional mandatory forms of social organization, like the family, the corporation, and the state lose their power over the individual, involuntary forms of control appear. Today in the West, updated forms of the Bolshevik Party, like the collective, the affinity group, and the commune, spread all the basic principles of Bolshevism, while appearing to dispense with rigidity and sterility of the traditional political groups. The individual learns how to give himself up for the glorification of an abstraction. He learns how to reconcile himself to a collectively produced mediocrity. And most important, he learns that this society permits and even encourages his attempts to restructure social life as long as they alter nothing fundamental to the maintenance of the spectacle. A critique of Bolshevism is political only insofar as it is a critique of politics, of separate power, of representation. The way to end politics is not to ignore it, but to suppress it. Though it no longer represents a viable strategy, Bolshevism will remain formidable as long as it can maintain its monopoly on the interpretation of revolution. If one tried to sum up what modern society has thought of itself over the last decade, one could say at least this, that the social forces which seemed to be polarized clearly a few years before have undergone a development so complex that one can no longer easily recognize and label individuals according to their relationship to power, and that this development has created a sense of confusion and restlessness in the society as a whole. Here, ideology stops and history begins.
It's hard to stay involved in politics. After Vietnam, nothing interests me anymore.
May 68 was a really wild time in France. I wish I'd been there to march with the workers.
Paris is great. What this town needs is a cafe where you can meet and talk with interesting people.
The intermediary stratum in the traditional class structure was the petty bourgeoisie, who, representing a primitive social system based on local autonomy, longed for the simplicity of an earlier period, but always sided with power in the end. The transitional figure in the post-World War II universe of the modern spectacle is the cadre. The cadre is the answer to the question, where have all the radicals gone? The cadre is the institutionalization of the two-sided and contradictory nature of the spectacle, which simultaneously sings its own praise and, smelling its own stench, reports it. The cadre is not the managerial class, nor the white-collar worker, nor the hip professional. The cadre is anyone willing to perform his or her role in exchange for the miserable compensations which modernity confers. The cadre is the center of the fabled post-war revolution in the world of the commodity. It is for him that the latest cultural innovations are created. He lives in the new architecture, goes to the modern cinema, pursues the current dream of liberated sexuality. He is the person who acts out eulogies of the commodity society and believes them, who writes pseudo-critiques of the commodity society and believes them, who finds the world unlivable and still manages to flourish in it. The cadre must appear to be in the vanguard of his epic. He must be in favor of everything progressive, everything radical, everything that purports to be new and innovative and stylish. He is the modern consumer who hates what he must consume because he knows all of its inadequacies, and yet who continues to search for the perfect commodity, the one which contains no imperfection. He believes that his educated refusal of inadequate commodities place him above the obedient conceives what he is told. Padre simultaneously wants to enjoy the security of submission and the thrill of refusal. The goal of the spectacle is to make each individual its accomplice by the whole of his life and aspirations. The spectacle is made to be lived by its spectators. The cadre is well suited to the fantastic vision of a world where there is no visible interference in the lives of individuals. The cadre sees himself as an exemplary individual who can live without police because he polices himself. He never tires of broadcasting that fact to a world he finds barbaric. The cadre believes in reform of every aspect of daily life, piece by piece. He leads the movement to remodel the spectacle. He reforms his consciousness with drugs and therapy. He reforms the workplace by participating in the decision-making processes of large businesses, by creating collectives and cooperatives, by establishing alternative trade unions. He reforms consumption by ferreting out dirty commodities, the nasty processes, the unsafe regulations. The cadre believes in reform most of all because, for all his talk about revolution, he is terrified of having to give up the security of this world, where he enjoys certain ordinary privileges, for a world where he could become anything, a villain, a hero, or simply a mediocre man. The cadre wants the impossible dream of the spectacle, to consume without working. If he admits that he works, it is only to add that he is doing something that he likes to do, which makes him different from everybody else.
I got it the last time I was in China.
The habits and interests of the cadre are gradually becoming the habits and interests of workers and consumers as a whole. The cadre appears everywhere, exhorting us to forget what we do all week in order to better enjoy the weekend, or to search for possibilities for intelligent activity within the confines of the spectacle. Measure of the success of the cadre as a role model is a growing sentiment of workers in general to think of themselves as better off than others. Everyone else is unhappy. Westerners think that Eastern Europeans are really miserable. Northern Italians feel sorry for the peasants of the South. Factory workers can understand the strikes in the coal mines. Alcoholics pity heroin addicts.
Sonda, in a lot of ways you're a model for me. It's so much easier to look at your life than to think about mine.
So easy. I just think of something that I like to do, and then the rest takes care of itself.
I dream of a world outside of this one. A simpler, gentler place with just us and the children.
A world without men doesn't bother me. In fact, I welcome it a bit.